Hey, this is Niels on Dynasty. Please like, share, and subscribe. Be kind, helpful, and grateful because it's better than being a jerk. And buy some silver platinum and some crystallized osmium. Buy platinum for sure. I've done a lot of reports on South Africa collapsing. Uh, Big YouTubers who have silver companies seem to think that the GDP of Africa, South Africa, will save BRICS. Yeah, okay. Education time.
South Africa has been rocked by yet another sobering financial reality. The country's budget deficit for January has officially landed at a staggering 54.66 billion rand, equivalent to approximately $2.84 billion. While this represents a slight improvement.
So now you see why they were bitching about losing the 500 million a year in aid, because that would have covered a quarter of their deficit and they wouldn't have had to have got their house squared away because they're fleecing America for their own political gain. Oh my God. Say it ain't so.
From the catastrophic 78.63 billion rand deficit recorded in the same month last year. The sheer size of the shortfall has triggered alarm bells across economic circles, raising urgent questions about the health of South Africa's public finances and the government's ability to steer the nation out of its deepening fiscal quagmire. For many South Africans, the term budget deficit might sound like economic jargon reserved for economists and politicians. But in reality, a budget deficit is a financial red flag that touches every citizen's life. Simply put, a budget deficit occurs when a government spends more money than it collects in revenue, primarily through taxes and other income streams. In South Africa's case, ballooning government expenditure, driven by a bloated public sector wage bill, relentless bailouts to struggling state owned enterprises, and costly social programs, has far outpaced revenue collection in recent years. As a result, the country has been forced to borrow heavily to plug the gap, sinking deeper into a pit of debt that could haunt future generations. But why should ordinary South Africans?
By the way, the white colonials are causing this. We're down there with guns, putting the guns to the heads of the freaking leadership of South Africa, causing them to be greedy. Us evil colonialist. Yeah, right.
Africans care about these dizzying numbers because a swollen deficit has real
That
and
evil
painful
guy.
consequences. The more the government borrows, the more it must pay in interest on that debt. Money that could have been spent on essential services like healthcare, education, infrastructure, and job creation. Furthermore, international credit rating agencies closely watch deficits like hawks. If they decide South Africa is becoming too risky, they could downgrade the country's credit rating further, making borrowing even more expensive. This vicious cycle could push South Africa closer to a full blown debt crisis, similar to what crippled countries like Argentina and Greece in the past. Looking ahead, South Africans should brace themselves for a bumpy economic ride in the coming months. The Treasury's latest data confirms what many feared. The government's spending habit is still out of control, and revenue collection is struggling to keep up amid sluggish economic growth, high unemployment, and persistent power cuts that continue to choke businesses. This combination of low revenue and high expenditure is a recipe for fiscal disaster. In practical terms, the budget deficit could mean higher taxes for ordinary citizens, reduced government spending on critical services, and a height.
Of course, what he doesn't tell you is approximately 50% of their citizens are on social services and don't work. So if you're increasing taxes, you're going to increase taxes on half of your population that are getting none of the benefits, in case you're wondering how long that's going to last.
Risk of inflation if the government resorts to printing money to finance its debt. The deficit also carries ominous political implications, especially in the aftermath of a fiercely contested general election that left the country with a fragile coalition government for the first time in its democratic history.
And by the way, before you say, oh, this sounds like America, no, actually it doesn't, because we've already cut a couple $1 billion out of our actual monthly spending through Doge. So we've already made the moves we need to take to upgrade our credit rating, downgrade the amount of interest we pay on our loan, making us awesome. Look for the future, baby. Positivity pays off positively.
with voters already disillusioned by years of economic stagnation, corruption scandals, and failing public services. The new administration faces intense pressure to show immediate results, and the massive deficit is a glaring obstacle to delivering on campaign promises. Opposition parties, emboldened by the ANC's weakened grip on power, are seizing on the deficit as evidence of fiscal mismanagement and using it to demand greater transparency, spending cuts, and even austerity measures.
Hold on, spending cuts. Another reason why they're probably crying like little bitches that America is not giving them a free $500 million a year. That helped hurt their economy too, because it wasn't going to aid, it was going to these people's pockets.
Meanwhile, international investors and credit rating agencies are closely watching how the government
Quiet!
handles the deficit, with any sign of reckless spending or populist policies likely
Sorry,
to trigger
cat.
capital flight and a further downgrade of South Africa's credit rating. This creates a political nightmare for the ruling coalition, which must strike an almost impossible balance between maintaining social spending to appease frustrated citizens and demonstrating fiscal discipline to reassure global market.
That is a recipe for disaster. You cannot continue social programs when you're in a financial deficit. But that's what they're going to try to do. It's called a train wreck 101. Maybe we could get some people who own Liberty Finance or whatever it is. That one YouTube show that's got Andy on it. Maybe he could watch this and come on my show and tell me how positive this is going to be for South Africa's GDP. Oh, please don't say I've been telling you guys this for a year and a half, maybe. Go back and look at my videos. They'll speak for themselves. Have a great day, and don't listen to me because I tell the truth.